and global engagement are the themes that I want to talk about today, because they're at the core of why the US Secretary of State has a special advisor on global youth issues, and why we care to address the aspirations of young people all around the world. And so in order to understand why youth matter as an emerging set of actors on the global stage, I'd like to begin by explaining the new realities in a world order undergoing significant and transformative changes, where young people are at the center of and are driving global events. First, the demographic realities. How many of you guys have heard the term youth bulge? Nobody? I don't believe that. The youth bulge is a phenomenon where, due to low infant mortality and high maternity rates, there's a large share of the global population defined as youth. And today, more than half of the world's population is under the age of 30. So that means you and your cohort represent 3 billion people around the world. And this statistic gives me great optimism. You're the largest cohort of your kind that has ever existed, and you're living in one of the most exciting times in our history. But along with this demographic reality, there are a few other factors, including technology, global networks, and new centers of influence that are changing the way the State Department views and interacts with the world. So, first of all, the 21st century can't be talked about without referring to the rise and predominance of communication technologies. And these technologies are fundamentally changing the landscape of human connectivity, international affairs, social collaboration, citizenship, and social movements. Technological innovations have increased the pace of international affairs and have facilitated a new era of human connectivity. Social media, mobile technologies, the internet have all changed the fundamentals of how we view citizenship and the idea of a global citizen, and who is a global citizen. These new technologies have resulted in significant changes to the way that foreign policy must be conducted, and they've changed aspects of our diplomatic relationships. Today, access to information at rates and magnitudes never seen before create a whole new network of engaged individuals who might be sitting in New Delhi but are engaged in a social cause in New York via a mobile phone. Young people are the first adopters as digital natives when it comes to new communication technologies. And they have used these new technologies in ways that have changed the perception of what it means to act locally but think globally. Second, along with the rise of communication technologies comes the rising use of social media, which is leading to an ever-increasingly networked world. Networks are now being formed, not just in the physical space, but also in the virtual spaces. And they have just as much of an impact, if not more, when it comes to global participation, as was witnessed during the protests here in India in December. In an ever-increasing and growing band of networks found via social media and online tools, there are now more places for someone to be connected to a global cohort of youth, connected and networked individuals on any number of topics. Which leads to the third factor, the rise of new centers of influence in the world. New centers of power and influence are emerging, which include both state actors that are new global and regional centers of power, as well as non-state actors, which include civil society organizations, entrepreneurs, NGOs, philanthropies, foundations, and I can go on. More of these emerging power centers are located what is often referred to as the Global South. The countries that are new emerging centers of power are also the same countries that have growing numbers of non-state actors and sizable populations of youth who are exercising their involvement through non-state entities. So in each of these factors that I've laid out, young people are at the forefront. And as young people increasingly use technology around the world, both from rural to urban, there will be growth in the use of social networks, which in turn means that these networks of global actors will use new forms of organizing that will supplement traditional channels of power and traditional actors. So we look at the world and we say, how does our foreign policy respond to a changing world where youth are at the center of driving global events? And we at the State Department recognize that young people are the key to solving some of the most pressing global challenges that we face. We believe that engagement by young people in economic, political, and social life is critical to the shared prosperity that we all seek. That's why all of us, from governments to civil society and the private sector, need to listen to the next generation and give their voice and ideas legitimacy. Because success for all of us will depend on whether young people are able to realize their full potential to be drivers of innovation, economic growth, and positive change. Because very simply put, we cannot solve the massive challenges that we face in health, education, climate change, and economic opportunity without the engagement and involvement of young people. As my boss, Secretary Kerry, has said, young people around the world act as a global cohort. They are more proficient with the technology that keeps them connected in a way that no generation in history has ever been before. We need to help all of them and us to use this network, this remarkable network, in a positive way. So with regards to India, young people are the here and the now. And let me lay out some statistics to illustrate that point. Currently, India has 60% of its population under the age of 30, which roughly translates to 750 million people. Every third person in an Indian city today is a young person. And in about 7 years, the median individual age in India will be 29 years old, and that person will likely be a city dweller. By 2020, India is set to become the world's youngest country, with 64% of its population in the working age group. This is a huge potential factor. Now, all of you young people here at NMIMS University share some similarities with your global cohort. Many of you are active on social media. Whether it's Twitter or Facebook, India has a huge presence. Facebook has more than 65 million active users here, which puts India among the top 5 worldwide in terms of users. As for Twitter, India has about 18 million Twitter accounts, placing it 6th amongst the biggest Twitter nations. Most of the social media boom happened in the past year, despite the fact that internet penetration in India is only 11%, which is 3 times lower than the global average. So most of these users, I believe, are people like you, urban and young and under 35. Another trend that's similar among global youth and Indian youth is your view towards employment and social causes. Like most millennials, you find that work is about gaining skills and not working at the same job for your whole career. Many of you will have up to 7 to 9 jobs during your career, and you expect to gain skills in each career that are transferable to the next. For Indian youth, 54% will consider a job with less work time, and 89% will look for flexible timing when looking for a job. And this is because Indian youth are more eager to contribute to improving their society. I've seen numerous examples in my very short stay here already. Almost 51% of youth across Mumbai and Delhi have expressed their keenness to work for charitable causes. And nearly 38% say they want to join politics. And there's a lot of optimism as well, as there should be, where 45% of Indian youth feel that economic conditions in their country in the next 5 years will be much better. So given the demographic realities that exist, most economists agree that this youthful population potentially offers India and its growing economy an unprecedented edge that could add a significant 2% to the Indian GDP growth rate. So based on the facts that I just laid out, I don't see the Indian youth bulge as a challenge, but rather as a great opportunity for this country. From the statistics I've encountered about India, many young Indians see themselves as being part of the solution to many of the challenges they face both locally and globally. And being here, I've gotten to meet so many young Indian change makers who are trying to help solve global and local challenges, and that gives me great hope. I want to share some of these stories with you. One story is right here at NMIMS MPSTME, which is home to the Mumbai Youth leaders summit together. Students from MYLST received appreciation and funding from the World Model UN for Project REACH, which I just got a chance to hear about, which promotes health awareness and effectively manages the cold chain system in order to safely supply government-produced vaccines to rural areas. Another example is Anish Thakkar. He's the CEO of Greenlight Planet, which is a VC-funded, impact-focused startup which makes and distributes low-cost solar home lights for the 1.5 billion consumers in Asia and Africa who use dirty, dangerous kerosene lanterns for work, study, and life. Greenlight has been selected as the most innovative solar company in the BOP space by Ashoka and Deutsche Bank's global project Solar for All initiative, and their products were recently recognized as the best solar lamp in The Economist magazine. Uniquely, Greenlight sells its life-changing solar-powered lanterns to off-grid families in India and Africa through a massive sales force of village-level sales agents that promote the company's products and build trust in its brand at a micro level. So today, over 1,000 sathis, which means companions in Hindi, sell Sun King lamps each month, increasing their own incomes by 40% from $2 a day on average. Since 2009, over 400,000 homes in India and Africa have started using Sun King in their house every single night. Thakkar previously worked as a management consultant based in Chicago and with an organization called ZS Associates. Another example is Deval Sanghavi, partner and co-founder at Dasra, which has provided philanthropists with intelligent investment strategies which have directed over $15 million into the Indian social sector over the past 13 years. He has an impressive track record of scaling and sustaining nonprofit organization and social businesses, which include Magic Bus, Angan Trust, and Mukthagan and Educate Girls, impacting over 1 million lives. His experience in the social sector has enabled Sanghavi to play a vital role in the inception of the Times of India Social Impact Awards 2011. And Shaheen Mistry is CEO of Teach for India. She founded the Akanksha Foundation in 1991 to educate slum and street children. These two organizations are interwoven and they collaborate on projects such as the Inspired Conference. Akanksha Foundation works with municipal schools in partnership with municipal corporations of Mumbai and Pune to promote non-formal education through after-school centers. In 2006, a group of young leaders working to reform education in India met with Wendy Kopp, who is the CEO and founder of Teach for America, to discuss the feasibility of adapting the Teach for America methodology. And in 2008, Mistry founded Teach for America in Mumbai and Pune, modeled on the Teach for India modeled on the Teach for America model. So these are just a few of so many stories of Indian innovators driving change. But they all highlight the robust role that Indian innovators are playing not only locally, but also the impact that they're having globally. The last story about Teach for India is something that I want to close with, because for me it highlights several points of how India can make further investments in its youth bulge, such that it becomes a youth dividend. As you know, India is a hub for innovation in both science and technology and social innovation among young people. And that's well on display at this university. But in order to really capitalize on the youth dividend, there are some more steps that I believe need to take place. Firstly, in order to reach its full economic potential and play a role as economic drivers, India will need to train and educate more youth with the right training and skills. India aims to increase its higher education enrollment from under 20% to 30% by the end of the decade. That means it needs 50,000 more colleges and 1 million more faculty. In addition, young people will need a more prominent role at the policy-making table if the needs of their communities and societies are to be fully addressed. Finally, as the story of Shaheen Mistry highlights, we can build more bridges between Indian youth and American youth so that we can leverage the wonderful work that young people are doing in both countries. As Secretary Kerry recently stated, our lives as Americans are more intertwined than ever before with the lives of people in parts of the world that we may have never visited. Each one of you is helping to chart a path to a better tomorrow for yourselves, for your families, and for your communities, and of course for your country. And in doing so, you're also role models for young people who want to start their own business or move ahead in their careers and be successful. If you build a network of young leaders that spans this country, there will be no stopping you and no stopping progress for this region of the world. We know that empowering young people is one of the most positive forces for reshaping the globe. Nowhere is that more true than in India. And I just want you to know that as the Special Advisor on Global Youth Issues, and also from the Secretary of State, that we are supporting you as you lead the way. Thank you very much, and dhanyavad.